All right, so if you are a full-time entrepreneur, this video is for you. You're a full-time entrepreneur, you don't have too much time for your health. I was in your shoes. So I'm going to show you how I got lean and jacked as an entrepreneur, a full guide on how you can do it yourself. All right. So who am I? Why should you listen to me? Am I just some random YouTuber that just like popped up that always does shirtless videos and doesn't necessarily have credentials but calls himself a performance coach or a fitness coach? No, right? So I'm a serial entrepreneur at heart. I've been doing this for years. I've been doing this over the last 6 years, 7 years, right? So I built a venture-backed tech startup called Soko back in 2022. You can look this up. It was Techstars backed, had a bunch of other venture capitalists and angel investors invest in us as well. So again, I was fundraising a lot. I was on the road a lot. I had a team that I had to manage as well of high performers. So I was a part of that, right? Then I also co-founded an 8-figure lead generation agency called Leadbird, leadbird.io. You can look it up. They're still here today. I sold my position early. We're doing about 30K a month. And I decided like, hey, I want to sell my position to work on another business, right? I had shiny object syndrome. So I've done a lot when it comes to business. So that's why I'm a serial entrepreneur first. And as you can see here, this was me going through the Techstars accelerator with my team. I'm also a professional fitness trainer, right? Like, again, not just a YouTuber that just posts videos on getting jacked and doesn't really have the credentials to do it. So I was one of the top trainers at Equinox San Francisco. If you've ever heard of Equinox, they're literally the top luxury gym in the world, right? In the US, they're number one. In the world, they're probably top 5, right? So I was one of the top trainers there at a young age. I would say I was about 20 years old when I was there. And I was featured on Pop Sugar Fitness as an Equinox trainer. And they wrote a whole article. That's how I blew up my Instagram. That's how everything started going up for me as an online coach. And I also coach Silicon Valley's top CEOs and executives. Right here, I was actually in Boston and I was training a financial executive, right? I was getting everybody in shape that were high end. So I'm used to dealing with people who don't have that much time, who don't really have the mental capacity to focus on their health by themselves. So they outsource it to me. I was the go-to guy to outsource health to, right? Also, I was a bodybuilder. So I got second overall out of 150 guys in my first bodybuilding competition, and I got first in all of my classes in men's physique, right? So this was basically called NPC Utah Classic. You can look it up. I was in there back in 2022. Incredible experience. Definitely pushed myself. I got down to 5% body fat, so I understood kind of how nutrition works, how training works as a bodybuilder, which doesn't necessarily equate to being an entrepreneur, which I learned because as I was building my business after bodybuilding, my coaching, my fitness coaching business, I put on the entrepreneur hat again, right? I wasn't an athlete. So I had to be able to manage my health. And I did the same exact framework that I'm going to show you, the same protocols that I'm going to show you to make this happen while also building a 6-figure business, right? So the problems I faced while building businesses over time and just getting jacked in general, because I've always wanted to maintain being jacked. I didn't want to be a guy who just like, okay, I got in shape once and then I never got in shape again. I wanted this to be consistent. So the issues I had was that I had 12-hour work days every day of the week. If you're an entrepreneur, you know, you work all of the time. You don't have time to lounge. Like there's always something to do. There's always fires to get put out. There's always stress. There's always a lot of things that go on, right? And also when I was building my tech company, I was traveling with my team and eating out consistently, right? You have to go to dinners. You have to go to dinners with investors. You have to go to dinners with your team. And you know, I didn't really understand how to manage this stuff. I wasn't just like a bodybuilder who was sitting at home meal prepping and just eating the same stuff all the time. I had to be dynamic and I had to understand how I could be able to eat in a way that made sense, right? And I only had like 4 hours a week to train, to be honest with you. I didn't have that much time, especially when I was building businesses. When I was just purely bodybuilding, I had plenty of time. And this is why I think a lot of coaches don't do well with entrepreneurs because they don't understand that they don't live in the gym like they do. Right. And I understand that because I also still don't live in the gym. I probably go to the gym for about 45 minutes to an hour, 4 times a week, maybe now 3 times a week because I'm also doing kickboxing. So I understand that there's not enough time to be living in the gym like a gym rat. Right. And meal prepping took far too long and I was way too busy for that. So I needed something simple, something that I could replicate every day and just become a machine. Right. And I also had the mental thought process that like I needed to go all in on business, neglect my health so that I could finally make it financially, which was not true. You can do both. You should do both, because if you put one on the wayside, you're going to fall off, and that's going to permeate into business performance, which you do not want your business performance to slow down because you're not healthy, right? So the effects of going all in on business and neglecting my health. This is interesting. So this is a picture. As you can see, I had Cheez-Its. I was drinking energy drinks. I just had a bunch of just bad habits that I developed because of this, right? And I was a good leader to my team, but I started becoming not the greatest leader because my health was not intact. I wasn't the strong leader that came into it in the first place. And your team can see that. They can see the weakness. This is why I lost a lot of my co-founders, because I stopped being strong. I stopped being the guy who was healthy, the guy who was making really, really sharp decisions, because I let my health fall into the wayside, right? So I was tired all the time, constantly tired, always just not sleeping well enough, not having deep sleep. I tried to get 7 hours, but it felt like I was only sleeping for 3 hours because I was stressed with work. Didn't have the mental bandwidth to handle all of the stresses that came with the business. So I was constantly overstressed, constantly not making the right decisions when it came to picking the right investors, going into pitches, things of that nature. My cortisol levels were through the roof. Cortisol is a stress hormone, which can work for you, but when I was going to sleep, I had the cortisol spikes. And when I was waking up, I had huge cortisol drops, which meant that I wanted to stay in bed a lot later. Even though I had to get up at 5 a.m., I just was groggy. All right. So you have to understand that those stress hormones need to be optimized so that you're more stressed when you're awake, because that's going to wake you up. Right. Obviously, as an entrepreneur, you wake up and there's problems. You check your phone, there's problems. Right. So you want to be able to dial in on that. It's a big thing that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with. And I was also leaving a lot of money on the table because I wasn't thinking sharp. I was losing some investors that were key. We got investors, but there were some investors I really could have had, but I didn't nail down the pitch correctly because, again, I had brain fog. Right? I was eating a lot of junk food. I was sleeping super late. I didn't necessarily have the right lifestyle to really build the business. I also didn't like how I started looking in the mirror. Started getting bloated. My face started getting puffy, as you can see. Like, there were a lot of issues that was going on internally, and it manifested externally. I wasn't out of complete shape, but I wasn't in optimal shape, which made me sharp when I was pitching, when I was selling, when I was doing all of these different aspects of the business that grows the business, right? Again, I started putting on unnecessary weight, super bloated face, lost my self-image. It was bad, right? So I had to come up with a system, a clear system that would work for me. And I'm going to share this system with you so you can understand how this works. So the training protocol, let's go. So it's training protocol, nutrition protocol, and lifestyle protocol. These are the 3 protocols within my system that I use to this day when I work with entrepreneurs to help them be able to put their health on autopilot, get jacked on autopilot, right? So the 3 phases are build, grow, and scale. If you're an entrepreneur, you know, in a business, you're building, then you're growing, then you're scaling. It's the same process with your body, right? So phase 1 is build. This is for training. Full body workouts 3 times a week. I always say this, but it's very important. You get maximum efficiency because you're only working out 3 times. So it's really 3 hours a week of your time. And you're working out every muscle group 3 hours a week. So you're getting maximum muscle growth in the process. Another part that not many people talk about, a lot of these fitness coaches don't talk about this, but circuit style training, I almost pioneered this, right? Where you're doing every exercise back to back in rounds, right? With only dumbbells and barbells in the same space. So that way you're more efficient with your time and you're getting a lot more reps in with less rest, right? Compound exercises only, no isolative exercises. When you're early on the phase of building, you don't want to overcomplicate it with a bunch of different things. It's the same as business. You do not want to overcomplicate your business. You want to do simple things repeatedly that work, right? It's the same concept with your body. When you're building your body, you want to do simple exercises, compound squats, deadlifts, bench, overhead press, pull-ups, low rows, right? So like barbell rows, basic exercises that take on multiple aspects of your body so you're staying efficient. I did higher reps. I did 12 to 15 reps, right? So high reps, high intensity. I was resting under 60 seconds, probably around 30 seconds per exercise that I did. And that's the build phase, right? Phase 1. Phase 2, got into growth, right? Growth is important. So this is where I did an upper lower split 4 times a week. So I increased how long I was in the gym. Now I was in the gym 4 hours a week, right? So now I was targeting smaller muscle groups, more dedicated time on upper region physique and lower region physique. So I had more time to like figure out, you know, my upper body wasn't doing well, I could help that. If my lower body wasn't doing well, I could really work on that too. So it gave me more points of emphasis, right? And I implemented heavy duty style training, which I actually got from Mike Mentor, which is a bodybuilding legend. But he was a big proponent of going to the gym for about 30 minutes every time he went, right? And he went to the extreme of only going 30 minutes a week. But realistically, I didn't want to go to that extreme. So I wanted to balance both, right? To be able to still go 4 times a week, but only 30 minutes. So it worked out, right? So 30 minutes, think about it. You go 4 times a week. That's about 2 hours a week, right? So it's actually less. It was great. So the way that it works is you do 2 warm-up sets, 10 to 12 reps. You increase the weight on every set, right? You start off with lighter weights just to get your muscles going. And you have 1 all-out set, right? So it sounds like 3 sets, but it's really like 2 warm-up sets, 1 all-out set. The ranges are 6 to 8 reps, and you do as much weight as you possibly can. You overload your body on that last set, right? All-out set. You take 30 minutes of rest in between each of these different sets. And this is ideal for maximum hypertrophy and far less time spent in the gym, probably 30, max 45 minutes. If you're really going hard, put your phone away, make sure that you're dialed in on the workout, feel the workout, right? This is the growth side. You're going to experience the most muscle growth during this phase. Third phase is the scale phase. This is where you've already built a ton of muscle. You've already lost the fat through the build phase, right? And you've gotten to the point where you need to tune your body. So this aesthetic split is probably 5 times a week. You're probably going to have a little bit more time to do this. Probably takes about 45 minutes. So yeah, you're probably going to spend about a little under 5 hours a week during this process, but you would have already built the lifestyle of going to the gym and you've already planned it out. And most entrepreneurs like to go to the gym every day because it's more of like a mental thing for them. Right. So this is where this is good to be able to scale and put everything on autopilot. So your split will be chest and triceps, right? So push, back and biceps, pull. Then you have a single shoulder day, right? Which shoulders are really important for aesthetics. They're really good for displaying power, dominance, and just being a leader. That's why I always focus on shoulders. That's why I have these boulder shoulders. That's literally why, because I literally have a shoulder day dedicated to that. Legs, right? A full day worth of legs. And an extra day if you want to on any weak body part that you have. This is an aesthetic style training, and it's 4 sets of 15 to 20 reps per exercise. So high reps, because again, you're isolating each smaller muscle group and you're building with that. So you're doing more isolated exercises. So you're doing chest flies, you're doing incline dumbbell bench, right? You're doing all of these different exercises that are not compound. And you're doing 60 seconds of rest max. I definitely recommend 30 seconds if you can, but 60 seconds if you really need that. So it's ideal for carving out the specific muscle build, the specific muscle that you built in the growth phase, right? Now, the nutrition protocol is interesting. So nutrition is what I struggled with a lot when I was an entrepreneur. I'm still an entrepreneur, and I don't struggle with it anymore because I have the system. Fruit fast until noon, right? This means I only eat fruit, most likely blueberries, pineapples, apples. You have any type of fruit that you're interested in. I do a huge fruit bowl, right? Depending on what your macros should be, depending on how much you weigh, how much your target weight is, that's what you need to figure out. Obviously, if you need help with that, link will be in the description. I can be your coach to be able to help you and build this out for you custom, right? Caloric deficit of 300 to 500 calories below maintenance at all times. This allows me to stay lean year round. Year round, I stay completely lean. I don't gain any fat. And you're probably wondering, well, how do I keep the muscle, right? So that's where I have a protein intake of 1 gram of protein per lean body mass of my target weight. Most people, they mess up because they do 1 gram of protein per body weight of their current weight. That's way too much protein. You don't need all of that. That's why most people cannot hit their protein goals, because they just can't eat that much protein and they end up just pooping it out, right? So you want to be able to deal with that. 4 is carb cycling, which is important. So lower carb intake on rest days, higher carb intake on active training days, which makes sense because on training days, you're going to need more carbs for more energy in the gym. On rest days, you're going to need less carbs. So you're going to eat less. Your caloric intake will be less when you're resting. I do this with all of my clients, right? Circadian eating, right? So higher carbs to break the fruit fast. So afternoon, right? I'll have a higher carb meal, probably more protein as well, but not as much. higher protein and fiber intake for evening meals. That way, when I wake up, I go and I take a shit right away. Right? So that's going to help me flush everything out. That's kind of how you want to do it. Do not eat 2 hours before bed if possible to give yourself optimal times for digestion. And then only eat whole foods. Simple. You'll lose weight. You'll get jacked. You'll get lean if you only eat whole foods and you remove all of the artificial foods that you're eating, the chips, the candy bars, all of these things that are not whole foods. Whole foods come from the ground. And whole foods, interestingly enough, so you have proteins, carbs, and you have fats. Those are the three macronutrients, your macros, right? Whole foods tend to fall into one of those categories, either carbs, proteins, fats, which means they're less calories overall, right? Now, when you go into more artificial ingredients and ingredients that are processed, or foods, meals that are processed, or meals that are artificial, they tend to combine all of those. So you'll have an artificial meal or a processed meal with carbs, fats, and proteins all in one, right? You'll have trans fats in there. You have all these random nonsense that you don't want. So sticking with whole foods makes it so much easier to be able to hit your macros and not overeat, because they're typically higher in caloric intake. Whole foods are lower in caloric intake, but higher in your macros, right, that you need. So that's what I focus on a lot. Lifestyle protocol, right? This is going to be very important. So every time I would go travel, or even if I'm at home right now, like I'm in Romania, like I scope out the highest gyms, the high-end gyms and hotels with the best gyms in order to have a better environment for motivation and higher quality people to network with. That way I'm handling business and I'm training at the same time, right? I run into like business owners, I run into guys who are like worth millions of dollars just casually, right? And my physique allows for me to communicate with them because they come up to me and they're like, bro, how did you build the physique? So it's a networking play, right? Second, find restaurants that have the highest quality foods that you can take investors and clients to if you are doing business outside of your hometown, right? If you have to travel for business. This is important, right? But then when you go into these high-end restaurants, you want to make sure that you have a double portion of protein and half a portion of carbs, which is very important because it's easy to overload on carbs. It's easy to overeat carbs, but it's hard to overeat on protein, right? You get satiated very quickly. And make sure that you eat the protein first. I did this with one of my clients, and he literally lost like 3 or 4 pounds just doing that, right? And nothing else. He didn't even work out while he was out because he didn't really have the time to do it. But that helped him a lot. And that's helped me a lot as well to remain lean and jacked at the same time. Third, find high quality recovery clinics that do red light therapy, cryotherapy, anything that's recovery based, right? Make sure that you do that. Make sure that you're going to a chiropractor. Take care of your body. Make sure that you're recovering properly so that you can be primed and you can start to train at a higher capacity. You can be high performing in the gym and high performing in business as well. Because when you don't recover properly, your cortisol levels spike, right? Because again, you're getting sore, your muscles are getting broken down, and they're not getting built back up properly, which is why even if you work out 7 days a week, you will still be skinny fat, which sucks, right? So you want to make sure that your recovery is dialed in so the muscle, the lean muscle tissue can grow accordingly. Fourth, find high protein snacks if you ever have the urge to snack on something, right? So Quest chips, as much as, some of the ingredients I don't really like, but they're better than eating Doritos. They're better than eating Pringles, right? Find high protein ice cream if you're really into ice cream, right? Make sure that the snacks that you consume have at least the macros that you need, right? They're not the greatest, but if that's what you want, if you're craving that, I highly recommend finding high protein recipes and snacks to be able to consume, right? Results. Now you're probably asking, well, Martel, how did this help you? Well, this helped me save hours in the gym, hours figuring out what foods to eat. It allowed me to stay lean forever and maintain and build muscle on autopilot to this day, right? I literally gain muscle and I lose fat on autopilot. My metabolic rate is super high, right? I'm able to burn very quickly, which is good. My energy level skyrocketed effortlessly. My business was easy at that point, right? So it's very important to be able to manage your nutrition and manage your training the same way that you're managing your business. And my health was back on point, and I was in complete flow compared to when I was stuck trying to do bro diets and bro splits, right? That's all I knew because I was also doing bodybuilding. So I tried to do the same. As you can see, my body was super lean, low fat, probably around like 10% in this picture right here. Right now, I'm probably sitting at about 11%, 12%-ish. So it's very important to be able to do this. It's important to be able to implement all of this stuff into your routine so that you can be the highest performing entrepreneur, and you can have a body that commands respect, it commands attention, and it also just helps you with networking. That's very important. That's what entrepreneurs don't understand, the connection of health, aesthetics, as well as business, right? So if you're a high performing entrepreneur and you want to outsource your health and fitness, obviously you want to get jacked as well while running your business, especially when you get my younger entrepreneurs that are hustling out there, that know that the physique is important. They know that that's going to help them stand out. They know that that's going to help them, that's going to help them exude an air of responsibility, which it helped me a lot. People thought I was a lot older for my age, so it's easier for me to do business, right? And you want to outsource that to a professional with over 10 years of experience in the industry. Me. I'm not just a YouTuber, right? I'm somebody who has done this before for high level people. I've done this in high level environments. This has been my career on and off for a very long time. In between doing businesses, I would train high level executives, right? So I do this. Click the link in the description, apply for one-on-one coaching with me if you're an entrepreneur and you're running your business, you're doing well, but you want to hit that second leg. You want to go higher, right? And you want to make sure that your health is intact. I got you. I made a few examples of some of the clients that I've had. Chris, if you haven't seen my case study before, huge case study. This dude literally lost 29 pounds in 90 days. This is just like the first phase. Like if you look through that video, he even went way leaner than that, which was great. Nick, you know, he was a high level executive at one of the companies that I worked for. NextThink, huge company, had a lot. He was a talent acquisition. He was head of global talent acquisition. And he needed help dropping weight, literally dropped 20 pounds in 90 days. And my other client, Hari, which I made another video about him as well, lost 15 pounds in 90 days as well, did a whole body recomp. So this stuff is possible for all of you. So I'm opening up the doors for entrepreneurs. That's who I love working with. That's who gets the best results. And that's who uses a jacked physique to be able to make more money, right? So if you're interested in that, again, link will be in the description. I appreciate you. I hope that you found value in this video, and I'll see you on the next one.